Okay, awesome. All right, well, let's get started because there is a lot of content to cover today. So, gosh, I think this is a week later, so it feels like this class happened a while ago. But today we're all talking about agents. And in our last class, we covered automations, which are rule-based. Are you able to see the right slide? It should say agents and automations for marketers. Can someone give me a thumbs up?
I'm seeing welcome, Kajal, not seeing.
Okay. Let me reshare. Give me 1 second. Usually Gage helps me manage this, so just give me 1 second. Stop sharing. Let me reshare again. Okay. Window. Share. Okay. Do we see this? Perfect. Okay. All right. So as I was mentioning, last class, we talked about automations. And just as a refresher, automations are rule-based. They run on, hang on, let me get rid of this. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to manage my windows. Okay. So automations, they are rule-based. They run on when a specific condition is met. So you got introduced to make.com, and which is one of many automation platforms. And today we are going to go one level up. We're going to talk about agents from a realistic perspective, but as a practical, coming from a practical standpoint that marketers can understand and use. So this session is knowing about the difference of spotting the opportunity to build an agent, understanding what is worth doing versus what is unnecessary. And last session, we saw that workflow, again, are rule-based, right? And they don't run until that specific condition is met. And agents are different than that. And then as you are all familiar with our AI system we've been working on. So agents fit as the operations team in the broader AI system. So an agent is not just a chatbot. It's not just a workflow. It's a worker that can pursue a goal using the information and the tools and the rules. So an agent is autonomous. It is goal-driven. It is context-aware, action-oriented. And the core word here is autonomous. Automations follow, again, instructions, but agents pursue a goal, and that's the difference about them. So to simplify this, think of a coffee vending machine versus a barista. The coffee machine will only respond when you press a certain button. It'll do different things depending on what kind of coffee you want, but you are still you're kind of doing those actions versus a barista is watching what's happening. It's making decisions and taking the initiative for their specific role. And AI agents are closer to the barista persona. So if they're making your coffee and they spill milk, they will know that they need to wipe it up. Or if they, for example, put in the wrong creamer, they know that's not what you asked for. So they are observing information, and then they decide what to do next. And they don't operate freely, though, and this is really important to know. they operate within guardrails that humans have to design. So same thing like a barista would take your order in a store or read an online order. That's why when you're designing an agent, it's really about designing what work should happen. Has anyone here in their company or in their role currently designed an agent? Or is using an agent at the moment?
I am. Since I work in sales, I use agents a lot to help with my pre-meeting. So it'll research. If I have an upcoming sales meeting, they'll research the client, the company, the KPIs. And of course, we set those guardrails as to who the client is, what type of information I'm looking for, whether it's target audiences, if I wanted to use internal resources or external resources or both. So that's been helpful.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Anyone else, or is anyone thinking about building agents within their team? Okay, well, maybe this will inspire you. I want to talk about the spectrum of work. So, and layer it in. So on one hand, we have, humans doing everything. Then we have automations where rules are triggered based on workflows. And then agent sits further along the spectrum because they don't just execute the steps, they evaluate information and then they choose the next step. So for marketers, this is powerful because so much of the work involves around customer feedback, campaign for performance. And I'll later in the presentation, I'll kind of show you like the workflow that I've been working on for a client, and you'll see how much work it actually takes. But also a really good agent could be an agent that analyzes market trends. So agents can help us understand those signals and continuously work as well. So as I was saying, oops, geez, there we go. Making sure we're on the right slide. Okay. Before we get into demoing anything, I want to be super transparent about something. So building a real autonomous agent where you are completely designing it, the whole process isn't trivial. So, and it's nearly impossible for me to build an entire agent in this like 30 to 40-minute class without a real business case. Because real agents are not just prompts, they are an entire system built around a business problem. So before any team builds an agent, they have to make real design choices. And the business problem has to be real. That is the first filter. A lot of people are, I hear it all the time, like, oh, we need an agent for this, we need an agent for that. And that's very exciting. And it's also, as AI is progressing and a lot of teams are implementing AI, it's not just because you want to try an agent, is you have to think about what work is worth handing off. That's a really big question and one of the first questions that you should be asking. Then there's also model choices. So when you're building an agent, you can choose the model that you want to use. And then the decision surrounds around which model do you want to choose. Some models are faster, some are cheaper, some are better at reasoning, and then some are really better at summarizing information. Then you also have to think about, when you're designing this agent, you have to think about all of the tool access. So a true agent becomes useful when it can touch different systems, and that matters. Your CRM, your email, your Slack, your branding documents, your dashboards. Then you also want to make sure that your agent has all of the necessary knowledge. If the agent needs to work, if it's a branding agent, right, it needs to work on your brand voice. Maybe it needs your campaign history, your compliance guidance, or any internal playbooks that you may have, any successful previous campaigns that you've run. So these are all RAGs. RAG is simply when a model can retrieve trusted information from either your company or past performances. Then you have to think about decision setting. And this is really important because not every agent should behave the same way. And we'll talk about how to do that and how to understand that. Some agents need consistency, not creativity. And this can vary in marketing, right? So if you have a design agent, that agent needs creativity. But if you have an agent that is morally focused on analyzing your market or campaign performance, that needs accuracy and consistency. So that's where setting, like there's a setting called temperature that matters the most. And like I said, we'll get into it in the next few slides, but it's really important when you have to think about these things when you're architecting an agent. Then again, I will always say human in the loop there, and then there's monitoring. So once an agent can run autonomously, someone has to evaluate whether it's still doing the right thing. Are they accurate? Are they escalating things correctly? Are they hallucinating? And where are they hallucinating? So you need to have like a QA person for that agent as well. And then also, do you have a drifting off policy? Again, human approval. This is how you build trust with your agent. Many teams start with human in the loop before they even allow any autonomy to come in. And then also cost. In one of our very first few sessions, we talked about tokens and how tokens come with the cost depending on the LLM. So cost is not just the software that you're paying for, but cost is also shaped by how often your agent runs and how much data is it processing and how long the context is. So on that note, let's talk about cost. Because it's extremely important to call out the cost of building an agent, because people, again, often assume we just have to pay for the software fee. But in reality, cost is a combination of technical and operational factors. So again, token usage. Every time a model is reading or writing, there's usage. Again, then there's frequency. An agent that runs once a week is very different from an agent that's constantly monitoring data. Then there's workflow depth. If the agent classifies a campaign, let's say checks your knowledge base, looks at your company policy or your branding rules, drafts a report, sends an alert, these are all multi-steps into the agentic workflow. And then, of course, there's API calls. Every external system that you add to your workflow can add cost and complexity. And then the last one is retrieval. If the system uses RAG again is your company information or any internal knowledge that you give to your agent. If the system uses that, to pull in a campaign history or messaging deadline. These are all, again, architecting different workflows. So costs can get really high when it comes to that, when you're building an agent. And this is where I wanted you to, this is what I was mentioning earlier. We're talking about temperature. And temperature affects how much variation the model allows in its response. A lower temperature usually gives you an output that is more consistent and repeatable. So not only from a cost perspective, but like when you're thinking about your business case, so if you're looking for any type of reporting, you want to keep the temperature fairly low as you're designing your agent. A higher temperature usually gives you the output that is more varied and flexible and creative. And just to be clear, high temperature isn't bad. It just, it does not automatically mean the model will hallucinate or anything. You can think about it as not all agents need to be creative and some do. So if I'm building a campaign reviewer, I do not want the output to change all the time. I want consistency. I want stable judgment. I want reliable checkpoints. That usually means, again, lower temperature and tighter instructions. However, if I am building a campaign concept generator, I may allow more variation because I want creativity to exist in that agent. So settings matter because they shape the behavior of the agent. You do not need to memorize these exact numbers, but it just helps to understand. So the lower the number in the temperature, the more accurate it is, and the higher the number in the temperatures, it's like more creative. If you want a balanced business assistant, I would say stay in the middle. And if you want more expansive ideation, more variation, go with the higher temperature. So for this class, it's important that the idea is not the exact number. It's just knowing what am I trying to achieve? What is my initial business problem? Okay, all right. Now, if there's one thing I want you to remember from today's session, it would be a good agent, again, starts with the work, not with the tool. The mistake most people and most teams make is there's a shiny new object, shiny new tool, and they want to use that. And that is very exciting because each tool is like, we can do X, Y, and Z. But you have to figure out from a team perspective, maybe you're building this for yourself, what exactly am I building? So a good question to think about is, what business problem do we have that is repetitive enough, valuable enough, because think about the cost, and has enough structure so you can set up the whole system for an AI worker to help you with. So the first step is always a business problem. Example could be our campaign is going live with inconsistent messaging, or we are missing early warning signs from customer feedback. That's a good starting point. Then you want to define the goal. What should this agent actually accomplish? Not to be smart, not to be like helpful, but being specific. You want a review of your campaign assets before launching, and a clarity flag, or a claims issue. Or is your agent coming in and reviewing customer comments and identifying what are the emerging themes here? Then you want to move to signal. Signal is important shift in language. In automation, we often talk about a trigger. A trigger says, this happened, so start this workflow. But agents, again, they're different. Automations react to trigger, and then agents monitor signal. A signal is something the agent watches out for. So a new campaign submission, maybe you get a new comment on your product. So the negative sentiment is going up, or a positive sentiment is going up. There's a change in conversion rate. There's a weekly market scan. There's a new customer review added. So that's the key difference. Just because a signal appears does not mean the agent will always act. Again, it ties back to your business problem. What are we trying to achieve from building this agent? And this is where logic comes in. That's why signal and decision logics are separate. A trigger in automation usually starts as a sequence. A signal in an agent tells them, pay attention here, evaluate this, watch out for this, based on their role and what they're trying to solve. Then the agent uses decision logic to determine, do I need to act? Should I act? Should I wait? Should I escalate? Should I log this or just leave it alone? That is what makes a workflow feel agentic instead of purely automation. An automation might immediately send every mention to a spreadsheet, but an agent won't do that. Agent would only do in a similar use case, like if you're just trying to track your negative review, an agent will try to understand what's a negative review and only put that into a spreadsheet. Or maybe you can set up your agent to say, hey, can you tell me if this is a neutral review? Is this a positive review? So an agent will think with you. Then it's, again, based on that logic. It decides whether to log it, to summarize it, recommend a response, or escalate to a human. So that's the decision logic. If you want to explain it simply, you can say decision logic is how the agent decides whether it should act at all or not. And that's the heart of being an agent, being autonomous. It's not just something happened, it's something happened. Now I need to figure out how to evaluate it. What does it mean? And do I need to act? Then we have inputs. Inputs are the information the agent needs in order to make a sound decision. If it's reviewing a campaign, maybe it needs your ad copy, maybe it needs your landing page, your target audience, your offer, any languages that you use to claim. And if it's monitoring customer feedback, it may need access to your comments, reviews, support tickets, recent campaign context, or even previous documentation as RAG as your sentiment history. Then we have to define the tool and the knowledge. What can the agent access, right? Depending on, again, what's the business problem? Does it need to review a campaign brief? Does it need to check a document in a folder? Can it compare your branding guidelines? Does it need to send something in the Slack notification? And all of those things are added into your agentic system. And this is important because agents are only useful as a system and context that they can work with. Then again, you have to define the guardrails, right? This is where we keep trust and control. We also have to define what the agent should never do, right? Never publish anything directly, never respond publicly without an approval. Again, human in the loop is really important. Never approve a risky claim on its own, and never write an email to a customer without the human review. So guardrails is what makes autonomy safe and trustworthy. And then finally, let's talk about the output, the escalation. So what does the agent actually produce? Is it a report? Is it an analysis? Is it a summary? Is it a recommendation? And then when it does, when does the human get involved? So this is, I feel like I've been talking forever, but this is the whole workflow of an agent. So overall, you need to have a business problem. The agent needs to have a goal. It needs to watch for signals. It needs to gather the inputs. It uses tools and knowledge. It operates within its guardrails, and it produces an output or it escalates. So this is how you properly design a full-on agent. And the next thing I wanted to show you was, this is an agent that I started to work on with a client. I've kind of removed all of the high-level information, but just give me 1 second. I think my Miro is loading. Let's see. Okay. So it started with a automation. Then we added some more tools in this automation. And now this is our entire agentic flow. I have my system guardrails defined here. I have my LLM guardrails defined here. Everything that you see in orange is a system perspective. Anything in pink is an agent. So you can see I have different agents built into this workflow. And then anything in the purple is human in the loop. So it's pretty complex to build agents. But what I wanted to introduce you to is we're gonna do a live build together. But again, I want to level set this very clearly that building a real autonomous agent is not light work. Production-ready agents usually require a real business problem, as we just went over. The right LLM use case that connects through an API, that connects to the right tools, accesses company information. So when teams build agents, the cost is, again, not only related to software, so it's really hard to build an agent just for demo purposes. So what I want to do is I want to introduce you to Manus AI. And before I start talking about Manus AI, I would love to know if anyone on the call has used Manus AI before or heard of Manus AI. I will take silence as a no. Okay, perfect. Well, let me introduce you to Manus AI. So most AI tools that we're all familiar with, they're ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or mostly large language models. And LLMs are essentially reasoning engines. They're very good at understanding the language, generating text, summarizing information, reports, and helping with analysis. But by itself, it's not really an autonomous system. It responds to a prompt. It can't manage any workflows. It can't coordinate tasks or operate across tools unless those capabilities are added around it. So the simplest way to think about LLM is the brain, but the brain itself is not a worker. To build something that behaves like an agent, you typically need an operating environment around that reasoning engine. So that environment can do task planning. They can access different tools. They can execute steps. Typically in an LLM, you will have to write in your prompt how you want that to be executed. So Manus AI comes in because it behaves more like a digital worker because it understands that environment. It is more than just a chat interface. So I'm going to drop Manus's link in our chat. Just give me 1 second. And if you are, it's a very quick, easy sign up because I would love for you to do this activity with me. Oh, I don't know why my link is super long. So in Manus, we are going to, instead of asking AI to answer questions for us or generate content, we're going to assign it a job. So imagine that you've hired a marketing intern and you gave them a task. You're like, go to this website, try to sign up for this product, and tell me if anything is confusing. And that intern wouldn't just analyze text, right? They would probably open the website. They would look for main call to action. They would click through pages. They would attempt to sign up or create an email account or follow a demo, and then report back what happened to you. So that's the behavior we're going to simulate using Manus, because Manus can navigate websites, interact with elements, It can execute workflows in a browser environment like a person would. And this is why it's often described as a system that performs tasks rather than just answering questions. So I'm going to also drop the prompt in our chat that I want you to run through. And you can pick a website of your choice. And I would love if someone would, I want to stop sharing my screen. And I would love if someone would run this prompt live and we can all watch what happens together. So please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm just going to pick a random volunteer. Going once, 2, 3. Okay, I'm just going to pick someone random. Rochelle Webb, are you on the call?
Yes.
Would you like to just run this prompt in Mana so we can see what happens as you run this prompt?
Yes. I'm still trying to get set up on the is the prompt and the okay. So you just want me to drop this prompt into my Manus? Oh, I can't. I think you're on mute.
Sorry. You'll notice that in the second sentence of the prompt, it says your goal is to determine whether the website, and you can insert any website. You can use something like Notion or HubSpot where you know they have a lot of signups and CTA buttons. But choose any website of your choice.
Okay.
And then I stopped sharing my screen, so feel free to share yours.
Okay. Uh,
If you're having permissions problem about sharing your screen, let me know.
okay. So I can put any does it need to be an exact website or you said like HubSpot?
Yeah, you can put like a URL. So make sure you type like the www.hubspot.com or notion.com.
Okay. Oh. It's not letting me type over your prompt.
Okay, no worries. I can share my screen because I was testing this prompt earlier, but I wanted everyone to kind of see the work come through. And we're also running close on time. So let me just share my screen. 1 second. Okay. All right. Okay, can you see my screen? Oh no, there we go. Okay. So here it is. You're acting like a website visitor evaluating. Here's my prompt. So I asked it to do HubSpot. And it came back with, I'll visit HubSpot's website, evaluate their primary conversion journey, document each step, produce a detailed UX evaluation report. Let me begin now. So there it went and did its thing. Okay. So the sign-up flow has reached email verification step, 6 digital code since the test evaluation. So basically what it did was it actually went ahead and did all of the user journey test for us here and documented those steps. Here it's telling you identified get a demo button. So it basically acted like an intern, like a task that you would give an intern. And imagine if that intern actually went on HubSpot's website and did this whole thing. So this is very different from a LLM, because an LLM wouldn't be able to do that. And this is very different from an automation. So there are some agentic systems that live in pre-built products, unless you're designing a whole new agent, like I showed you what I was trying to achieve with my client. I'm going to stop sharing and go back to our deck. Okay. So this pretty much actually ends our session here. As your play work, I don't want you to obviously go out and build an agent. We talked about how technical it is to build one. And like I said, if you are building an agent, I would love to chat with you. But when I share the deck with you, I would love for you to go to the slide, and I believe that was slide 9, and start to notice where agents might be helpful in your work. And think about a task that currently requires someone on your team or yourself to explore information, make a decision, and produce a result. And that's where you'll start to see where to build an agent starts to make sense. Yes, somebody raised their hand.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. What is the difference between an agent like in Manus versus the GPTs in ChatGPT?
Yes, so ChatGPT custom agents, they're basically your knowledge agents, right? So they can externally go out and do those tasks for you. So in your prompt, if you're building a custom GPT, you kind of have to write all the prompts for you, right? So they're not goal-oriented. They need all of the information that you will have to provide all of the information for them to produce the work. So it's not going out and accessing external tools, coming back and saying like, hey, this didn't work, that didn't work. They will try to find a way to make it work. And a custom GPT would kind of always go back to the instructions versus an agent will try to figure it out.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Yep. And
So I'm still, I did the prompt. I finally was able to get in and write over your prompt, but is it normal for it to be like, it's basically been running since we've been talking. Is it normal for it to take that long?
Yeah. I mean, it's basically probably, I'm just curious because I'll play with that. What website did you pick?
I also did HubSpot as well.
Okay. I think when I tested it, it took me about, like 5 to 10 minutes because it's probably going in and like testing each CTA.
Okay, so you were showing us the finished product, but like to get to that, it has to go through what is happening to me now.
Right, exactly. And you're welcome to share your screen again if you want to share that with everyone. I don't know because I don't have permission to give access if that's what you need because Gage owns these meetings.
No, I think I can share.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, go for it then, please. I think that would be really helpful.
Let me just put it in full screen for you. So, can you see my full screen?
I can, yes.
So this is what it should look like, right?
Yep.
And so I actually,
go ahead, please.
I actually have a site of like my own. That's a retail site. So I could run the same thing on my own website, and it would give me, like, it would go analyze it and come back and give me like a whole user journey, like improved user journey for it, or
Yes, it can. So you just remember, like, figure out your business goal. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Like, are you trying to figure out like how your CTAs are positioned? In this prompt, that's what I plugged in. But yeah, you can totally go back to replace it with your URL and see what kind of result it gives you to understand the user journey.
Okay.
And then this is probably the first time where we don't have much time for Q&A because we have our industry guest, Scope 3. Is someone from Scope 3 on the call with us? If not, then we can definitely do Q&A. So feel free to ask more questions. Or if you want to, somebody else. Do you want to try your website and see that, or you would rather do that on your personal time?
I can. So just put in the same prompt, but then update it with my site.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
And it won't matter that I haven't. I mean, I can change the goals to what I want later, but
yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Change it to whatever your business goals are. And while Rochelle's website is running, so Manus is actually really amazing once you get the hang of, like, once you can understand its capabilities. And for Women's Month, they're doing a free training as well. If anyone's interested, I can send that information your way. I think it's a webinar. So 1 hour webinar. I believe it's either Wednesday or Thursday. And you get like 500 credits with it as well.
I'm interested in.
Okay, I'll send that your way.
Thanks.
Can men go too?
I think so.
Okay,
I think it's a webinar. I don't think they'll gatekeep like, oh, you're not a female or female identifying.
He's an ally. He's an ally.
Yes, exactly. You position yourself as an ally and you're good.
Exactly what I would like one to.
Okay.
Thank you.
So basically what I did, I had someone showed me, I have a friend who is a software developer in Poland. So he got access to Manus before Manus actually was launched to the public. Like 300 people they actually like 300 friends to use it to make it smarter. So he showed me this a while ago. So I'm glad to see it's available now to us to use.
Yes, I was on those 300 list of people as well. I've been having fun with Manus for a while.
Good. So just to understand, like, so it's basically just taking the prompt and crawling like my whole website, and it's just telling me what it's doing as it's doing it here, and then it'll eventually just give me like a plan of like what I need to do going forward.
Yes, let me see if I plugged that in the prompt or not. I may not have. This is why prompting it's cliche, but prompting is king. Yeah, my output is produce call to action identified, steps taken during that journey, friction points or confusing elements, whether the goal was completed, recommendations for improving the experience. So you should have that in your output. Okay, any other questions?
So Kajal, you have a couple takers on the webinar. We started a little, I don't know, survey in the chat, or a sign up in the chat.
I'm sorry, this is about the Manus?
Yes.
Yes, so I saw your name in there, Brandy. If you maybe I'll just invite everyone that joined the call today, and then if you are a female or female ally, feel free to attend that. And I don't qualify or disqualify people, so if you are unable to make it, if you don't get the invite, then I apologize on behalf of Manus. All right. If there are no more questions, we can wrap up a few minutes early today. I do want to know if there were any surprises that you learned about building an agent. I would just love to hear some feedback on that.
I didn't know how involved it was. I think I was confusing the GPTs with the actual agent, so I didn't know that you had to have the business case and just how much it would actually cost. So that was very interesting to me, actually.
I
And
was
also
gonna
the
say
temperature
same exact.
setting, right? You can make it as accurate or creative depending on what the business goal is.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same exact thing because I feel like everyone and their brother talks about like, oh, I have all these agents to do this for me, agents to do that. So I thought it was like a very simple thing. So,
Right.
so I was surprised to know how involved it was.
Yep, Stephen.
Hey, so on Manus, can you adjust the temperature settings through your prompting? Like, how do you do that on Manus?
I don't think you can do it on the back end because it is pre-built, but yes, you could probably do that within your prompting. So if you have identified your business goal, you can say like, I'm looking for accurate analysis on this, and I think it'll adhere to that. Or I'm looking for like, hey, go wild, create something. So do you have a business problem or idea in mind? Maybe I can help you kind of think through that prompt.
Well, my Gmail inbox is a mess. So
Okay.
I need to I noticed that I'm thinking you could train Manus on your Gmail inbox. At least I saw the little icon.
Yes, you can connect different tools to Manus as well. So in that use case, I would say that you wouldn't want that to get creative depending on how you're trying to organize your inbox. So I would say something like, I would define in your output section, define what output you're looking for.
Awesome. Thank you. I look forward to playing around with it.
Yeah. And if anyone ever is looking to build, if you or your team is looking to build some like custom agents, which is sometimes what I do for my clients, I can definitely refer different platforms for you that are HIPAA compliant. And I know that's really important to certain industries as well. Any other questions before we wrap up the call?
I think you mentioned some not busy work, but some practice work for us to do. Was it just to run the Manus or?
Oh yeah, the play work was, I'll send the deck, but what I want you to, the whole idea of building an agent is because, as Rochelle was saying, everyone thinks that they have an agent. Is you need to have a specific business problem. So it's slide 9 in our deck that I'll send out. It kind of walks you through everything that you need to think about before you say, okay, I think I'm ready to build my agent now.
Got it.
So think of the proper use case. Again, that can be achieved maybe through Manus, but you can also, when industry people talk about building an agent, we're building agents like from scratch for a specific team. That is, again, connecting to tools, connecting to LLM. So you need the API connections. Again, then there's cost involved. So it's very customized. These are customized agents.
Got it.
Okay, well, I'll stop talking about agents. I talk about them enough all day, every day. And I will see you next month. And I believe next month is about AI governance. So that should be an interesting topic for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You all.
Of course. Have a good night, everyone.
So, thank you.
Thank you.